Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So tonight I'm going to be tying for you Harrop's Ant. This is a pattern that I used whenever I went over to Yellowstone. They have these honey ants, which we do kind of have some in Arkansas, but I mean, you can kind of change the colors on it in order to match it like a black carpenter ant or anything like that. It's a fun little pattern. The original came with like a duck wing, and I believe they've updated it to a CDC. So here we go. And I use the CDC just because it's a little more durable than duck, as we all kind of know. So I'm going to be using a TMC 100. Now this is in a size 20. You can tie them a lot bigger than this. I just pretty much had a spot from the ones that got eaten up at Yellowstone in my box, so that's why I'm filling up those holes. So I'm going to kind of come back to where the bend starts, and I'm going to use a sulfur orange and rusty brown dubbing combination. So you just kind of pull it out of the dispenser that way, and you just start pulling and lining those fibers up. And each time that you pull, you will make those layers so that you kind of separate everything out and get it all layered up right. If you kind of pull it tight, you can kind of see that it starts to be a little bit of honey look. We get just a little bit more of the sulfur orange. You can kind of make your own blend and kind of go from there. Kind of match the ants you have. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and dub this onto my thread here. We'll start out with just a teeny tiny bit because it's always easier to put on than it is to take off. I'm going to kind of build like a half football. So I'm going to kind of start a little head, bring it forward, and I want to build a little bit of a shoulder up here at the front. I'm going to go ahead and put just a little bit more on. I want to build just a slight shoulder right at the front of that back end of the ant. Then from there, I'm going to take 2 hairs off of a bleached moose body. And you want to try and shoot for a couple of hairs that are about the same diameter. You don't want one a whole lot bigger than the other. And you can line them up in your hair stacker if you want, or you can kind of line them up in your hands. I see one just a little bit longer than the other. Try and get them even about as best you can. Just a little bit more on that one. There we go. I'm just going to kind of jump my thread up just one, because you want to leave this as about as thin as you can on the... Oop, I dropped my hair. You want to leave it about as thin as you can in the middle, because we got a few thread wraps to get the CDC tied in and whatnot. We don't want to build up too much there. Let me get my hair realigned. There we go. And I want them to kind of come back just a little bit, probably what, a hook eye or 2 longer in the back end. And I'm just going to tie them both straight on top of the hook, side by side. And then as I come back, I'll separate those hairs to either side. It's easy on the other than it is on the near because the thread torque wants to pull it down. You kind of want to make sure you don't push that all the way to the other side, as well as you don't really want to push the one on the near side to, over the front or over the top, and come up and clip those out. And you want them just to splay out like that. One, it kind of helps the fly when it lands. Two, resembles a little bit of legs. Then from there, I'm going to be using a blue dun CDC feather. Just use one feather. I want that to poke out just past the body. You know, these ants have just a little bit longer wings than you would think. I'm going to hold the feather a little bit towards me so that as I wrap, that thread torque centers it right on top. There's a couple of different things that you can do with this feather. So one is you can take it and pull down from where you've cut and nip that tip out, and then push all these back up into a bunch. Get them to about where they're as even as they can be, and you can kind of pull them. You pick them with your fingernail, and then you've got another wing. You know, that's enough to tie another wing. And you can repeat that for however long your feather is to get multiple wings out of one CDC feather. Or you can put that in another little baggie and save it for dubbing or whatever you're going to use it for. Now, here's one little controversial thing. I've stripped one side of this hackle. Normally I don't do this on any of my hackles. It's almost sacrilege to take a nice whiting cape and pull half the feather off of it or half the fibers off of a feather. But to stay true to Harrop's Ant, I'm going to follow their direction. So I'm going to jump my thread back. Come forward. Then I'm going to go ahead and start my wraps. We'll grab my hackle pliers here just to make it easier on me. As you can see, I left a little bit of bare stem to allow me to start the wrap, and you don't really need that many wraps. You know, that's one reason why you have pulled some of those fibers off, because you really don't need, you maybe need that many. Three wraps before I'm going to tie it off. Because ants, they really don't have just a bunch of legs. And then I'm going to finish the fly with just rusty brown. And you want this to be a little bit smaller than the rear end of the fly. I'm going to start my dubbing up here at the front, work my way to the back, kind of build a small little shoulder, and then try and round everything else out. I'll get just a little bit more, teeny tiny little bitty bit. Don't need much. Back this up and tighten this down a little bit more. Finish with a nice little thread head. You want to just make a little ball, nothing too crazy. And there you go, Harrop's Ant. So you can change your colors up just a little bit. You know, if you want an all black one, you want, you know, to change the honey to the front instead of the back. Kind of do what you want, do what you need. They can go up to size 10 and 12 for a big old carpenter ant or whatnot. But this is a really good pattern. It floats really well once you get to, you know, hit it with a bunch of floating and whatnot. It soaks into that dubbing real well. Gives a real good ant profile, nothing too crazy. And it's just a really good little ant pattern. Well, I appreciate you. Tie some up. Let me know how you do. You guys have a good one.